In today's video, we're going to be talking about sales from the beginning of the fourth quarter. That's right. We are in the fourth quarter of 2025, which is the last 3 months of the year, October, November, December. And my fourth quarter started off pretty dreadful. And you know what? We're going to choose not to complain about that, but instead to ask ourselves, what is it that needs to change in order to turn things around? So I am going to share 2 weeks worth of sales with you today, but in the midst of talking about just some pretty crappy sales and not very many of them, I'm also going to be sharing with you just some of the things that I am doing to try and turn things around. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, my name is Becky Park. I am a part-time reseller, and these numbers, when I share them with you, you're going to be like, yeah, no kidding. Like, you are super part-time. And the truth is, like, these 2 weeks that we're talking about, I don't even think I necessarily gave up. I think I was semi-trying. I think I was listing somewhat consistently. It just was super slow. And
flash, 100-yard dash. Buddy, it's nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing in a lot of places. I'm seeing, in the depop Facebook groups. I saw a post recently. Someone was like, I don't understand. My depop sales came to a screeching halt. And I'm seeing the same kinds of things in eBay groups and in Poshmark groups. And for some people, not everyone, some people are killing the game, but for some people, they are struggling to make consistent sales. And I definitely am one of those people as well. But we're going to jump into it. I'm going to share with you everything that sold in these last couple weeks of sales that we'll talk about. And we'll also talk about just some of the things that I'm trying to do to change things up a little bit. So the first week of sales that we're going to talk about, it's so dreadful, is September 29th through October 5th. This week I had 4 sales. 4 sales. And like I said, I was kind of trying. It's not like I was gone on a trip or anything. We were leaving for a trip in a little bit, but we hadn't left yet. I don't know what was going on, but things were tough. So the first thing to sell was over on Poshmark, and it was on the 29th of September, which was a Monday. And I sold this Lululemon Hot to Street, that was the style name, Regal Plum Strappy Luxtreme workout tank top in a women's size 4. To be honest with you, at this point of my reselling career, I am leaving behind the majority of Lululemon that I find. A lot of the Lululemon that I find are older style leggings. They're these kind of workout tanks, and they're just not worth my time or energy because they don't sell for that much, which is evidenced by the fact that this tank sold for $18. It's something I got in June of 2023 from a coworker of mine. We worked out a consignment deal where I would try to sell things for her online, and if things sold and left me with a net profit of $25 or more, then I would give her 50% of the profit. But if it sold, leaving me with the smaller net profit than that $25 amount, then I would give her 40% and I would keep 60. And so that's what ended up happening here, obviously, because this sold for $18. So she kept $5.16 and I kept $7.74. So not only did it sell for pretty little, it sold for $18, it took 2 years to sell. This is why I generally don't pick up Lululemon anymore. Obviously, if it's a coat or a jacket or more of their pants, not leggings. Leggings are pretty hard unless they're very, very current. But if you're finding they're dance studio pants or the pants that you could wear to work, those kinds of things generally can do really well. But simple tanks, simple tops, I think sweaters and stuff are still usually a pretty good pickup. But the more simpler workout pieces, it's just not worth the money, and it's not worth the time that you need to invest to get that item listed, in my opinion. And if you disagree, let me know down in the comments what kind of Lululemon workout gear you're selling that are in the form of tanks and leggings that are doing really well for you. And then on the 30th, which was a Tuesday, on Poshmark, I had a decent sale. It was this Gudrun Shedden wool floral geometric boho cardigan sweater in a women's plus size 2XL. This sold for $50. I think I had it listed high at $75, but I got the $50 offer and I was like, yeah, you can have that for $50. Like that's a fair price. And I was hurting for sales. I had $5 into it from a local estate sale that took place in my town, not too far from where I live. They had so much clothes. A lot of it was Gudrun Shedden, so much Eileen Fisher. I've never seen so much Eileen Fisher in one place. And all of the clothing was $5 the first day, unless marked otherwise. There were a few racks with things that were marked stupid high. But on that first day, I got a lot of pieces for $5 a piece. And so my net profit after fees and cost of goods was $35. That sold in about 4.5 months. And this is why I have a newfound love for Gudrun Shedden. It is a great brand that a lot of people get really excited about and are willing to pay good money for. And then I had a string of no sales days. So nothing sold for me on October 1st or 2nd. But then on October 3rd, which was a Friday, I had my one eBay sale of the week. And it was this pair of Vask, I don't know if that's how you say it, Lotic, I think that's the style name, Vibram Sole gray drawstring water sneakers in a men's size 9.5. I put the word outdoor in the listing title because these are the kinds of shoes that you wear outdoor. They are waterproof after all. Those sold for me. Of course, I don't have this written down, so let me look it up. Hold on. So these sold for $30.99, and it's because I want to say I had some kind of sale running. I don't know. There was something going on, but the buyer reached out to me and he said, will you take $30.99? If you do, I will pay immediately.
Shut up and take my money.
And I was like, I mean, you're coming on a little aggressive, but yes, we can make that work. I don't think I had offers turned on for this, so I think I went ahead and sent him an offer for $30.99, which he accepted. This I was willing to let go of for that amount because I had purchased them last November. So I've had these in my possession for close to a year. I don't think I got around to selling it until a little bit after I picked them up. And I had $9.90 into those from a Goodwill in a town like an hour and a half away where I take my students every November if they qualify for the district festival in our state. And while they're rehearsing, I just go out and thrift. And this year it's really cool because my daughter made the choir too. She made the middle school version of it. So she'll be going for the first time. That'll be really sweet to watch her on that stage with, all these other middle schoolers and then to get to watch my high schoolers. But like I said, while they're rehearsing, what am I supposed to do? And there's a huge Goodwill in town, so that's where I go. But yeah, my net profit was $13.74. I was hoping for a little bit more, but after holding on to them for close to a year, I knew that it was the right move to just go ahead and move them. And then on the 4th, I had no sales, and then I had my final sale of the week on October 5th, which was a Sunday. I know on this day I had a 4-hour rehearsal in the afternoon with my a cappella students. And while they're amazing, not like the best use of my Sunday, not exactly where I want to be, but it was good. It was productive. And I sold this one thing, which was this pair of Levi's women's ribcage bell jeans in a size 27. They were high-waisted, and I put the word flared in the listing title too because some people will look for these pretty heavily flared jeans by calling them flared jeans. Some people will use bell or bell bottom. And so I just used both. And I hoped that by having both, I would be able to find the person that was looking for these. They were in an indigo denim, and I put the word retro in the listing title as well because it gives very much 70s vibes. Anytime I pick up a pair of, bell bottoms, I always think 70s. And these sold for $40 on Poshmark, and they sold really fast in under 2 weeks. So I think including both the word flared and bell, I think that worked in my favor. I had $4.50 into those, and so my net profit was $27.50. And I got them at a Plato's Closet at the end of September during a 70% off sale. And I remember going into that sale being a little disappointed because they didn't really have that much that I was excited about. Prices were still a little too high, but that I think was a win. I love when I'm able to make a net profit of $20 or more on an item. And of the 4 things that sold in this week, that was the only item that sold with a net profit of over $20. So let's talk about my numbers. On Poshmark, I sold 3 items for a gross sales amount of $108. I had $14.66 into those items, and so my net profit was $70.24. I had 1 eBay sale for a gross sales amount of $39.82. I had $9.90 into that item, and so my net profit was $13.74 on eBay. I think my payout that week was like $5 or something, because I think I also had like returns to contend. I don't know. It has been so rough for me over on eBay. Let me know if that's the case for you. I know for some people, again, they're just killing it, but eBay has come to a screeching halt when it comes to sales. And that's why one of the things that I'm doing over on eBay to try to counteract how slow it's been, I have already gone and scheduled out sales for like the next 2 months. I think that's as far as they let you go. It's either like 2 months or something like that. Like I'd wanted to schedule out sales for the rest of the year. So I'd wanted to schedule out sales for like the next 3 months, but there was a cutoff point where they wouldn't let me schedule, sales or discounts or whatever in the coming months. So I literally like wrote out on a piece of paper the schedule that I wanted to do, kind of a waterfall or tiered sale, if you will. I decided Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm not going to run any sort of sale. I want to give my items at least a couple days opportunity to sell for full price. Today is Wednesday that I'm filming. I don't think I had any sales on Monday or Tuesday. So on Monday and Tuesday, people said, no, thank you. We don't want your items at full price. So every Thursday every Wednesday and Thursday, I run a sale. Let's say it's like 10% off. And then Friday through Sunday, I run a different sale that is 10% more. So if I'm doing 10% right now, then I would run a 20% off sale over the weekend. And so what I did was I kind of like planned it out so that by the time it's Black Friday weekend, I would be offering 50% off, on my entire closet. And so leading up to that, the 2 days prior would be 40% off. The week before that, I would work up to a 40% off sale for the weekend. And the week leading up to that, I would work up to a 30% off sale. So I try to be proactive about setting these sales just so I don't have to like think about it later. It's already done. And I try to map out exactly how I wanted that waterfall effect to go into place. I can't speak yet to if it's been successful or not, because I think this is literally my first week of scheduled sales that, we'll see if it makes any sort of effect. But that's one way I'm trying to do things. I have tried, based off of the suggestion of one of you in the comments, or maybe it was over on Instagram, I don't remember. Someone suggested instead of doing sales, on your entire store or on select items or whatever, he said he just does coupons. So if someone comes to my store, they'll see that there's a coupon running and they can apply that coupon for the sale amount or whatever discount I'm willing to offer. And the reason why he said he likes that more than running sales is because then people cannot lowball you on your already discounted price. Instead, they see the price in front of them and their only option is to apply that coupon code. I guess they could send you an offer if you have offers turned on that's for less than that coupon code, but they're not already seeing a lowered price because you're running a sale. So I tried that maybe a week or two ago. I had a coupon going for maybe like 20 or 30% off in my eBay store. No bites. Like it did absolutely nothing. Yeah. So I think I am more of a sale girl. I like to run sales in my eBay store. And that does mean I have to put up with the fact that there will be times that I have like a 50% off sale running and someone will want an even deeper discount than that, and that is annoying. But every once in a while, I will let go of things for even more than my sale price because that item is so old or, something like that. So the thing I haven't done yet is I don't have my super stale listings going on like super sale. So there was a period where I was somewhat consistent with like picking out, maybe like the 200 or 300 stale list listings, and I would put them on like 60 or 65% off clearance. And I feel like maybe I can find time next week to schedule that sort of sale to run Mondays and Tuesdays. So it's like my stalest listings are always going to be on some sort of sale. And on Mondays and Tuesdays, they'll be on the kind of sale where like I'm letting go of them at rock bottom prices, but I just want to get them out of my house. So that's what I'm doing over on eBay to try and counteract how friggin' slow it's been over there. But let's talk about some more numbers for this really sad week of sales. I sold one item from that estate sale that I talked about. I've been tracking how much money I've been making from that estate sale because it's been a very lucrative sourcing situation for me. I was able to pick up like around 500 pieces of clothing there, and I wanted to share with you how I'm doing with all of those items. So only one sale from that estate sale this week, and that netted me $35. And from that estate sale thus far, I have sold 162 items for a net profit of $3,263.34. And for the year thus far, if you added my measly $83.98 of net profit from this week, my net profit is $14,267.89. So let's move into the next week of sales, which was a little bit better. I didn't even double the amount that I made in that first sad week, but I did do more. I did sell more. So the first day of sales that we'll talk about is actually October 7th, which is a Tuesday, because on the 6th, which was a Monday, I had 0 sales. But on the 7th on Poshmark, I sold this pair of Abercrombie & Fitch Annie high-rise girlfriend jeans. They were cropped and they were in a women's size 29. Those I got at a Plato's Closet in April of this year during their 70% off clearance sale. And so I sold them for $34. I had $4.80 into them, and my net profit was $22.40. And those took a little less than 6 months to sell. Abercrombie & Fitch, I know their denim can be pretty popular. I'm still figuring out like what Abercrombie denim does well, but I was pretty pleased with that sale. Again, it net me a profit of over $20. Very happy with that. Also on the 7th, I had an eBay sale. So this week was like the reverse. Last week I had 1 eBay sale and 3 Poshmark. This week I had 1 Poshmark sale and the rest of them were eBay. It's so weird. I don't know what's going on. But I sold this Wool X, which is one of my new favorite brands, women's 3X merino wool long sleeve crew neck top. It was red. It had a relaxed fit. It was soft, and I put some of the word lightweight, but it got cut off because I think I was like passing out as I was making this listing. So this item sold for $15.99. I only had 39 cents into it from that estate sale that I talked about. That was something that I got as part of a bulk buy after the estate sale was over. So I had contacted the people running the estate sale and I said, hey, I'd be willing to buy all of the clothing that doesn't sell. Just name a price and I'll pay it. And so they said, how about $150? And I was like, sure. And with that $150, I got more than 300 pieces. So it came out to like 39 cents a piece. The reason why I didn't get this on day one or even during the half off sale is because it was riddled with holes. And I'm not talking like cute little moth bites. I'm talking like giant holes. Like moths had a feast with this top. I mean, if it wasn't moths, I don't know what it was. Everywhere, on the front, on the back, on the sleeves, like it was crazy. But this brand sells well. So I was like, I'm just gonna list it. I'm gonna list it for super cheap and I'm gonna see if anyone wants it. And literally the next day, somebody purchased this. And so I usually don't do this because I feel like I'm pretty clear in my listings. If there's a flaw, I will mention it in the description. I will sometimes put the word flawed in the title. I will obviously take many pictures of the flaws. And this one was no exception. I had pictures of like all the different kinds of holes, like more pictures of holes than of the actual item itself, I feel like. But I reached out to the buyer and I was like, hey, I just want to make sure that you are aware this isn't really in wearable condition. Like there are a ton of holes and I just want to make sure that you know that because I'm trying to avoid a future return. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, oh no, I know. I'm purchasing this because I want to try to use it. I think she said she had like crutches, or she had, that thing, like if you hurt your foot or your leg and you have the scooter, like the knee scooter, like you put your knee on the scooter. It was something where she wanted fabric to create padding on like a crutch or a scooter or something like that, because she had some sort of injury and she just needed fabric to make her crutches more comfortable. And she was like, I really like this brand and I like their fabric. And so I'm going to cut it up and use it for that. And I didn't want to get something really nice for it. And I was like, this is why you list and sell flawed items. Like, that to me was crazy. And my net profit was $10.77, which isn't a whole lot, but look at how flawed this item was. And it sold in one day, which is crazy. From this estate sale, I actually have like a pile of flawed Eileen Fisher. It's a lot of like 100% silk or wool, and it's just a lot of stuff with much less flaws than this particular item. It'll be things with like 1 or 2 holes. But now I'm more motivated to get, that pile listed. And I think what I'll do is I'll separate it out by all of the wool pieces first, because I think there are people like this who they just want the fabric. They don't really care about the pieces, and maybe I'll auction it off. So that's another kind of tip is, just trying different selling strategies. If you are typically somebody who just list things as buy it now, maybe experiment with auctions. I know that's something I used to do too in the past with items that were super stale, items that I were just like, I was sick of looking at. I would auction them off starting at like 99 cents or $2.99 a piece. And even if I just got that one bid, I was happy to move it out for that price. Plus, it felt like it was bringing more attention and more people to my closet, because some people really enjoy an auction and they wouldn't otherwise visit my eBay store. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like that's one thing I'm going to try to accomplish this week, is to separate out all of the wool pieces in that flawed pile of Eileen Fisher and lot it up, take some pictures. I don't have to like do measurements or anything, because most likely people are not going to wear these things, and we'll just put it out to auction and see what happens. The next sale was actually a really good one. On the 8th of October, I had no sales, but on the 9th of October on eBay, I sold this Johnny Was blue printed Cupra rayon boho coastal tunic in a women's plus size 2X. I mean, I feel like I had some pretty good keywords in there, like, using words like boho and coastal. Like, coastal was a really big one for the summer, although I guess seeing as how this sold in the fall, like, I don't know. But I was kind of surprised. I was kind of surprised that it took, let's see, how long did it take? Okay, actually it didn't take that long. It took a little over 2 months for this to sell. So I lied. This is actually a pretty good flip. This sold for $49.90. That's an offer that I sent out to a watcher. I had some kind of sale going, but I was like, okay, I can go a little bit lower on this because I only had $5 into it from that estate sale. And so my net profit was $33.37. And I don't know, I feel like I've just gotten more confident with what keywords to use in the listing titles because of Resellers Edge University, which is a resource that I know I talk about a lot. And I also learn a lot from them about things like selling strategies, like the different ways to try running sales on eBay. People will talk about auctions over there. People will talk about just selling strategies and strategies on how to build and scale your business. And something about being in a group of people, some of whom are way ahead of where I am now and probably where I'll ever be, just given that for the time being, for the foreseeable future, I'm going to remain part-time with, this reselling thing. And then also being in the group with people who are just starting out or have a lot of questions. There's something about the mixture of people and being able to interact with them in the Facebook group for Resellers Edge University and in the live calls, because they do like a weekly live call. There's something both obviously educational, you can learn from the people who have been doing this for longer and who are doing it at a larger scale than you. You can also learn a lot from newbies. Like, newbies come in just hot to trot. Like they are so on fire. They're consuming so much information and they're so excited to share all that with you. But also, it's so motivating. It's so motivating to see people putting up consistent, huge numbers, and also so motivating to just, again, see the passion and the drive that newer resellers have. At this point, I mean, I'm just so like almost stuck in my ways and complacent almost, if that makes sense. I just kind of like hang out and do my thing. I'm one of those like old geezers that get really upset when, platforms change things or just being challenged to think about reselling differently. Like I'm like, no, this is how I do it. This is how I've always done it. This is how I want to do it moving forward. But there's something about the energy of both old and new and being in the same space as people and having that community that is invigorating and is something that I think has helped my reselling business and has helped me get to a point where I'm like, okay, I gotta try new things. I gotta embrace some of these new features, or I gotta try, utilizing keywords and researching these new fashion aesthetics, as dumb as I might think some of them are. It has challenged me to step outside my comfort zone. And if that's something you feel like you need, if you feel like you're just kind of plateaued, I think this is a great resource, and I will have links down in the comments below for you to check out. I think you get to save like 50% off of your first month if you use my link, something like that. So if you want to be in Resellers Edge University, check that out for sure. The next sale was on the 10th, which was a Friday. This was another super quick flip on eBay. It was this pair of Vans. They were in a men's US 8. I think they were actually unisex, but I just put the men's sizing because I figured like a male would prefer these over a female. They were these slip-on Trek rubber shoes in black. They were lightweight, ventilated, casual. These I got at a Plato's Closet 90% off sale, which typically I don't even ever want to go to because it's usually just garbage that's left behind, but I actually found a Magnolia Pearl dress this particular day. I don't know why. I still haven't listed it. I need to list it. But this I got for $2.50 at that 90% off clearance sale, and I went like at the end of September. This sold in one day. I listed it, and the next day it sold for $24.49. I did have a 30% off sale running, so it sold as part of my 30% off sale, and my net profit was $15.50. And to have made that amount in less than a day, yes, please. I was very happy with that. And then, okay, I was freaking out because the 10th was the day that we left for our fall break trip. Most of you know already if you watch my channel, but we went on a trip to Colorado and Utah. We saw a few national parks. We stayed in Beaver Creek, Colorado after the national parks, which was super relaxing to stay at like a ski resort when it's not ski season. Like we felt like we had the hotel and the ski village to ourselves. Like it was amazing. We saw a moose from our window on the mountain. Like it was awesome. So this was stressful because the day that we left for a trip, my husband and I, we had parent-teacher conferences in the morning, and then we had like a couple hours to kill at home before we left for Chicago to fly out of O'Hare, which is about like 2.5 hours away from us. But we had a couple hours to kill because we had like a guy coming to work on something at our house. I don't know. So I was like getting ready to shut down all of my platforms and go on vacation mode and do all that stuff. And Becky, a viewer, reached out like literally maybe 30 minutes before we were about to leave. And she was like, hey, I see that you're running this 30% off sale. I'm interested in these 3 items. Anyway, we could do all 3 items for $20 a piece. And I looked at the ones that she was talking about and I was like, absolutely. I still have not figured out eBay bundling. And I actually made a point to go like into my eBay settings to try to figure this out. It doesn't make sense to me. If anyone wants to explain how to turn on eBay bundling to me as if I'm a 5-year-old, I would really appreciate it because I could not figure it out. So we were kind of like trying to figure out different ways to do this. And then I was like, oh, just buy the 2 listings that are already at like the $20 mark. And for the last one that isn't, just send me an offer for $20. And I was like, furthermore, I will refund you the excess that you paid for in shipping as soon as I get this shipped out to you, which I'm going to try to do the second that this goes through. So I'm literally just like holding my phone and watching like one sale go at a time. And I'm like, blah, like I gotta go on this trip. But we got it to work. I was able to get it shipped out before I left, and she left me positive feedback on everything. And Becky, I do so appreciate you. And you know what? I would have delayed my trip even longer for you because that's how much I appreciate you.
I would do anything for you.
Yeah?
Especially in this time of dryness in my reselling business. So the first thing that she got was this Lucky Brand wood block print t-shirt dress. It was white and green with like a floral print on it, and it was in a women's plus size 3X. That one sold for $15.51. That was the 30% off price, and it took a little over 2 months to sell. It was from the estate sale, so I had 39 cents into it, and my net profit was $13.51. The next piece that she got was this T by Talbot's UPF 50 tropical print dress with pockets in a women's plus size 2X. I did put the word vacation in the listing title as well because I assumed that this was the kind of thing, people might want to wear on cruises or if they go to like, resorts or something in the summer. This item I actually got from a local consignment store's birthday sale in July of 2025. So I had $1.95 into that, and it sold for $24.49. It took 2 months to sell, and there was a period where I was playing around with like the AI models in Photo Room. I do have Photo Room. I think I'm going to let go of it soon because I don't really need it anymore now that I can just remove backgrounds using Photo Room within List Perfectly, and that would be a nice monthly payment to get rid of. But I played around with like the Photo Room AI models, and this is one of the pictures. I thought it looked pretty good. The second I showed my son, he's like, "Is that AI?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, like how do you know?" He's like, "I'm just really good at spotting AI." And I'm like, "Okay." He is 8 years old, so that's a really random skill to have. But on that one, I made a net profit of $20.77. And the way that it works, if you're gonna issue a partial refund on eBay, you pick the item that you're gonna send a partial refund on. There's like, just buttons that you press, like I'm gonna send a partial refund, you select the amount. And I sent her a refund of like maybe $14.41 because that's how much I was able to save on shipping. She paid for shipping on all 3 of these items, but because I was able to combine the 3 items when I went to ship, I was able to ship them out in one package and therefore save a ton on shipping. And I gave those savings from shipping back to her in the form of a partial refund. But I had to select a listing that I wanted to do that on, and I did it on this next piece, which is by the brand Land's End. It was this blue nylon 3/4 sleeve tunic dress in a women's plus size 3X, and I put words like outdoor and casual in the listing title. This also came from the estate sale as part of their bulk sale, so I only had 39 cents into it. And I'm saying that it sold for $20 because that's the amount that that's like the offer that I sent her, maybe the offer she sent me. I don't remember. That way, everything came out to $20 because one item was like 15 something, one item was 24 something, this one was 20. But I chose this listing to offer a refund on for the shipping. So it looks like I lost 32 cents on the sale because all of the savings that I passed on to her just came off of the profit from this sale, if that makes sense. Which, again, I'm fine with because I know that that's not really how it worked out. Like the savings actually would get deducted from the other 2 as well. It is what it is. But we're just calling it a negative 32 cents on that. But Becky, thank you so much for your purchase. I hope you love everything. And again, I just appreciate you adding 3 more sales to this really rough week. So thank you. And then moving on to the 11th of October, I was now on vacation. I think on the 11th, we flew to Colorado, and I went on vacation mode on all of my reselling platforms except for eBay. I just changed my shipping and handling time from 1 business day to 10. And that gave me time to make sales, but ship them at a much later date and not get, knocked for like late shipping. So on the 11th on eBay, I sold this pair of brunette. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Burgundy suede slip-on heels or like pumps in a women's size European 38. They were made in Italy. So if they're an Italian brand, it's probably like Brunate or something. But those sold on eBay. Of course, I didn't write down how much they sold for because that would be too easy. They sold for $25 on eBay. That was an offer that I got and I accepted because I was like, yeah, it's not that I had these for that long. Let's see. I had these listed for about 4 months, but I was like, I'm cool with that. Like, let's just go ahead and move them for $25. I only had $3.79 into them from a local consignment store's birthday sale, so my net profit was $15.50, which I was happy with. And then the last sale that we'll talk about this day was on the 12th of October, which I was also on vacation during, and on eBay, I sold this pair of Eileen Fisher plus size 2X washable stretch crepe pull-on straight pants in a teal color. These I got from the estate sale as well for 39 cents because they were part of that bulk buy after the estate sale ended. They sold for $24.90, which was an offer that I sent out to watchers. If I remember correctly, there were a few flaws, maybe some pilling, I want to say, on these, like heavy pilling between the thighs. They still sold in like 2 weeks though, and my net profit was $18.60. The moral of the story here is list flawed items. They can sell. And as long as you're crystal clear about the fact that there are flaws and then what the flaws are, they can sell for good money. So definitely list your flawed items. Numbers wise, for the week, from the estate sale, I sold 5 items this week for a net profit of $75.49, which means to date, I have sold 167 items from the estate sale for a net sales amount of $3,338.83. I had one Poshmark sale. And a lot of that is because I did go on vacation mode, but one Poshmark sale for a gross sales amount of $34. I had $4.80 into those Abercrombie jeans, and so my net profit was $22.40. I had 8 eBay sales for a gross sales amount of $234.70. My cost of goods for those 8 items was $14.80. And so my net profit on eBay was $127.26. So in total, I sold 9 items for a gross sales amount of $268.70. I had $19.60 into those items, and my net profit for the week was $149.66, bringing my net profit for the year thus far to $14,417.55, which is rough. Like, that was a rough week. But like I said, I'm choosing not to complain about it. I'm choosing instead to put my head down, be even more consistent with my listings, try things like, running sales. I'm going to try auctioning off that lot of damaged wool pieces from Eileen Fisher. I'm relisting a lot more consistently. And one huge goal that I've set for myself is to get ahead on my listings, because what happens is, it's things like I'll go on trips and I don't have listings going live while I'm gone because I'm never ahead. My parents are going to come from Seattle, like right around Christmas time. They come a little bit before Christmas time and they'll stay into the beginning of January. I always get nothing done when my parents are in town because I'm hanging out with my parents. And so if I can just get like a couple weeks ahead with my listings, and I think by relisting stuff, that'll help a lot. If I can just schedule out listings for the future so that I'm like 2 weeks ahead, I think that is a worthy goal to help me stay on track even when times get really busy. So those are the things I'm trying to do instead of expending any energy complaining, because complaining doesn't change results. Only action does. And if you are in need of a swift kick in the butt to try and, just put a little bit more action and energy into your reselling business, I have a Facebook page where I'm running a challenge right now for resellers who want to finish the year 2025 as strong as possible. It's called Finish Strong, and I will link to it down in the comments below as well. But that is what these 2 weeks of sales look like for me. Thank you for watching. I hope that your sales are looking a lot better than mine. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.